This has devolved into utter madness. This is like we're on the brink of a civil war. I mean, this is George Floyd Part 2. We have our new George Floyd, and it's splitting the nation right down the middle. So we've got a new video update, a different angle that shows what was going on. But I'm going to make 3 points that nobody else is considering. I'm not taking sides on this, and while everybody is arguing back and forth about whether or not the ICE agent had a right to fire the weapon, or if he should have, or if he should have ended her life, or if she was running him over, all of that is besides the point. I'm going to bring up 3 points that you're going to have to think about that will take you off of this whole over-focusing on this incident and turning this into a big George Floyd mess. So we're going to start with the video, the new video that came out last night, this new angle, and we're going to set that aside, and I want you to focus on these 3 points. There have been a lot of good comments on the last video that I did on the breaking story, but people are upset, and we need to sit back and consider what I am about to present to you. So first off, let's cut to this new video that came out last night. Here we go.
Kelsey?
Fred, we are taking a closer look at what happened in Minneapolis today that led to a 37-year-old woman getting shot by an ICE agent. Now, it all started this afternoon during an ICE-related operation. The incident was caught on camera in multiple angles. Police say this video starts with the driver blocking the street. The driver is gesturing at ICE officers, and they start to approach her SUV. One agent goes to the driver's side door. You'll see him in a minute. He tries to open the door while another officer steps in front of the vehicle. She then starts to take off, appearing to turn, and then shots were fired. Take a listen. Yep, right there. She then continues to drive and she crashes seconds later. The incident is also shown from another angle. You can see the ICE officer in front of the SUV here in this video as that car accelerates, and that agent then, of course, then opens fire. That woman killed was identified by the Minnesota Star-Tribune as Renee Nicole Good. The newspaper spoke with a woman who identified herself as Good's mother. The woman called Good, quote, one of the kindest people I've ever known.
All right, so we see that. It's pretty clear, and this kind of changes my thinking on what happened, because at first I thought it was the guy that was at the door. And I thought, okay, she backs up and then she tries to peel off, why did you shoot her? And I didn't think that it was totally justified, like was his life being threatened? But then I saw this video and another one that showed a third ICE officer that was standing in the front of the car. And yeah, he almost got run over. If he was 1 foot to the left, he would have been dead because the tires would have been going over his face when she pulled off like that. Okay, so that does make me think, all right, the officer probably was scared out of his wits with her hammering that gas. And I mean, look what's going on around the nation. We've got people that are shooting high-powered rifles at ICE agents. Okay, we got people ramming vehicles. We got folks that like to chase them all over town. People that are assaulting ICE agents, throwing rocks, bricks, snowballs, you name it. And you think that these guys are not going to be on the edge of their nerves, where you think that they're going to be able to process somebody hitting the gas and possibly, quite possibly, running you over and ending your life. But let's set that all aside, okay? First of all, let me state this. It is very sad that this lady lost her life. It's very sad. I feel very bad for her family. And I tell you what, I'll bet you she's not some hardened criminal. She's not. She's probably a pretty decent person. And this was a very disgusting situation that did not have to end this way, with her sacrificing her life for this cause. So please understand, I'm not saying that she deserved to be shot. Nobody deserves to be shot, okay? So now let's move on to these 3 points that we need to consider. And some of you that are really upset, I've got a friend here who she's off visiting Europe, and she's so overly focused on this that she can't get beyond it. And she's depressed that she has to come back and go back to work next week from her vacation in Europe. The first point that I want to make is this, and this is something that everyone needs to take a hammer, whack yourself in the head, all right? Get your head working and understand that ICE agents are federal law enforcement officers. They're not these political hitmen that are just pushing some political agenda. These are officers of the law on the highest level. Okay? Now, to put it into perspective, I want you to think about what would happen if vigilantes, like what we have, these crazy nuts in Minnesota, I shouldn't call them nuts, but these people in Minnesota who think they're doing a good thing, imagine what would happen if they disrupted police officers and highway patrol officers the way that they do ICE officers. Can you imagine what would happen? Let's say a police officer is pulling somebody over for drunk driving and they don't have a license. And they're arresting that person, dragging them to the car. And then this lady that lost her life comes peeling up and blocks the police vehicles before they can take that person to jail. Can you imagine what the response would be? And if those 3 officers came out of their cars, all right, 3 police officers, and you've got someone trying to block their way. Now, we don't ever see anything like that unless the person blocking the way is a member of a gang and they're trying to help somebody to get away. Now, can you imagine if the highway patrol pulls someone over for speeding and that person doesn't have a driver's license, but someone pulls up and blocks the patrol car, tries to ram the patrol car and prevent them from taking that individual to jail? Can you imagine how that would end up? Now, does anyone think about blocking police officers every time you see them responding in an emergency? Do you have anyone out there that on the daily thinks about blocking highway patrolmen when they're on the side of the road, pulling somebody over? Okay, so that's unthinkable, isn't it? But for whatever reason, people can't get it in their head that an ICE agent is a federal law enforcement officer that has a gun, that is trained just like the police, just like highway patrolmen, and they have a job to do. That is to arrest and detain people who are here illegally, and we don't know the backgrounds of those people who are being detained. It might be some people that might be just the most nicest, docile people around, and their only infraction is that they're here illegally, but some of them might have trafficking charges. Some of them might have robbery, burglary charges. Some of them might have gotten out of jail and are put back on the street like they do in New York City. We don't know what they are all about. We don't know their background. And so it kind of stands to think that you're taking a big risk by assuming that every time you see an ICE officer, 3 or 4 cars, trucks, that you have a right to pull up in the middle of an arrest and block them. All right, I can't fit that in my mind, but that's point number 1. Think about that and post in the comments below. Have you ever run up on a policeman while they're doing a stop in the city? Have you ever run up on a highway patrolman on the side of the road who's arresting a drunk driver? Let's say somebody's doing a sobriety test. Would you think about rushing up on the scene, ramming that car, or getting in the middle of the situation and blocking their ability to get that person arrested and taken to jail? Post it in the comments. Let me know. Second point that we need to consider, and that point is the state of Minnesota has fallen into a state of anarchy. Okay? And why do I say that? Well, it's because the political leaders, you've got the mayor out there using foul language, cursing federal law enforcement officers and saying, get out, as if he has the power to tell federal agents that they can't operate within his jurisdiction. I don't understand that. So here you've got the mayor of Minneapolis who's pretending that all activity by ICE is illegal and that they're not doing a job that has been carried on for the last 80, 90, 100 years. And then you turn around, you have a governor, Tim Walz, who actually said he was going to call out the National Guard to fight ICE. Now, that's absurd. It can't happen. You can't call out the National Guard to fight another federal agency. That's stupid. We know it would never happen, but it sends a message to people when the governor could sit there and say that he has such disdain and disbelief in federal law enforcement officers that he thinks that you can actually say that calling the highway patrol or calling the National Guard out on these federal officers is something that would protect the people. So we know he can't do it, but just saying it with his mouth is telling everyone in the state and in the city of Minnesota, Minnesota, hey, federal ICE agents, they are the enemy. They are thugs. They're Gestapo. They're Nazis. They're fascists. You know, all of the regular stuff. Okay. He's putting it out there that these are rogue agents and letting people know that we should all band together and fight against them. So that's why we have devolved into anarchy in that state, because the leadership, oh man, I don't even know what word could I put on it. It's irresponsible. It's unthinkable. And it's leading people into situations like what we saw where this woman just lost her life. It's because the leadership in the state is leading people down this road, this false notion that ICE officers are not federal law enforcement agents. So that's the second point. Let me know what you think about that. Do you think Minnesota is in a state of anarchy? And do you think that the governor and the mayor should be held accountable for the statements that they have made, which could contribute to more chaos? Third point that I want to make. Why don't these people put their energy into changing the law? I did a whole video on immigration law. I did an entire video about the whole notion that we should have open borders, where I dispelled that notion that we're on stolen land. Okay, I've got a whole video there. So instead of impeding federal law enforcement officials, why not talk to your congressman and say, hey, we know we got these federal laws that have existed since 1930, 1920. I want you to change those and make it legal to come into the country scot-free, with no vetting, with no rules, no regulations. Change those laws. Why are you out there impeding federal law enforcement officers with your local politicians jumping in on the action instead of saying, hey, let's change the law because this is what the law has been all along? Deportations have taken place under every presidential administration, but now we've got this mass psychosis going on. That's the only way that I can describe it. Since Biden allowed 20 million people to flood the borders, and he didn't change the law either. He just said, hey, let's create an app, the CBP1 app. Let's get around the law. We won't change the law, but we're just going to ignore it. We're going to open the border, and we're going to just make sure that the border agents are hamstrung and they can't stop this illegal invasion. In fact, we'll fly them in. We'll pay people to come in. We'll bribe them in, okay? But we're not going to change the law. Post in the comments below and let me know if you think it makes any sense at all that these protesters are putting all of this energy and putting their lives at danger, at risk, instead of talking to your representative, to your senator, and saying, hey, maybe we should change the law, even though that's a very bad idea. If you didn't see the video that I did before about this false notion of open borders, you need to go check that out right now, because there's not a single country on planet Earth, there's no first world country that has an open border. So where did this whole idea come from? And why did it just pop up since the Biden administration? We can show videos from Barack Obama, from Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, speaking, sounding more stringent than Donald Trump himself when it comes to illegals and immigration and enforcing the borders. So post in the comments below and let me know what your thoughts about that are, and if you think that we are under a mass psychosis in this country where people all of a sudden think that it's okay and it's all right to run around blocking the actions of federal law enforcement officials. Let me know what your thoughts are. So if we consider all of this, the bottom line would be people would not be risking their lives. I mean, it would sound absurd if we had a new movement by the radical left where they claim that, okay, since we're passing laws in California that make it illegal to show a driver's license to vote, well, let's take it a step further. Let's make it illegal for officers to force a person to show a driver's license when they get pulled over. Let's just make that illegal, period. No one should be identified. And they get everyone to believe in that. And then all of a sudden, every time someone is pulled over on a street in a city and on the side of the highway, you get people ramming police officers, ramming highway patrolmen, protesting, blowing whistles, and impeding the arrest of those who are driving without a license. Would that make any sense? But that's no more absurd than what we're seeing right now. So I want to hear what you think about this. Post in the comments. Keep it respectful. Don't lose your minds. Take a deep breath before you start. And if it's filled full of cuss words and you're just foaming at the mouth, going bananas, I'm just going to delete your comment. So be an adult about it. See ya.